So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. We are looking at the webinar today, Beyond the Scan, proving the business value of connected products. And I'm really excited to welcome you all. This is a really exciting webinar because I think one of the things, having spoken a lot about connected packaging, but one of the things that often gets missed is the value. Why do it? And so that's really the idea behind today's webinar. Today, we're going to have this is going to be a recorded session. So you receive a copy of the recording later on. You will also be able to find this on the Talking Giraffe. Welcome to you all. Good afternoon. I'm Jenny Stanley, Managing Director of Appetite Creative. And if you haven't already seen, we are looking at Beyond the Scan, proving the business value of connected products. And I'm joined today by two fantastic guests. Hopefully you'll be able to see them in a moment. They're just going to turn on their videos. But our speakers today are Randi Boehner. She is Customer Success at Digimarc, and Güneri Tuçgu, Global Director Partnerships and Business Development at r-pac International. Randi, she brings extensive experience helping brands protect their products and enhance consumer engagement through digital watermarking and connected packaging solutions. And Güneri, you may have seen him on one or two of our webinars in the past, but he is absolutely a guru at this. He is at r-pac International and also the founder of Coco Connect podcast. He's got over 24 years of experience across various industries. He drives innovation in connected merchandise, traceability, brand integrity, and authentication. So we're thrilled to have you both here for this deep dive into proving business value. Welcome to you both. I also wanted just to let you know, now we've got quite a few people on here at the moment, that this is also a live session, which means you have the opportunity to ask your questions to our fantastic speakers. So any questions that you have, pop them in the Q&A box at the bottom, and we will get to them as we can through the session. So we're looking at ROI, proving the business value of connected products. I believe and I hope that we will show you today, the value is beyond any marketing gimmick and is why businesses are now turning from a nice to have into a need to have type of strategic vision. We're going to be looking at some of the key metrics for evaluating connected products and their ROI. We're going to be looking at some real world case studies. We're going to dive into those. And then we're going to look at some pitfalls and then some proven strategies to maximize business value. Today, we're going to look behind the hype. We're going to look into the tangible business returns. But before we dive into our case studies, let's maybe establish why ROI measurement matters more than ever. As I said, brands are really moving from nice to have digital experiences to actually demanding concrete business outcomes. We can see one-off campaigns becoming always on, and we can look to Coca-Cola, AB InBev, Kellanova have got some really interesting and nice campaigns, but strategic campaigns which are always on. So whether it's increased sales, enhanced consumer engagement, improved brand protection, or supply chain efficiency, every connected product initiative needs to deliver measurable value. In our experience at Appetite Creative, we've seen connected packaging campaigns deliver 3 minutes of engagement time, 20 to 30% increase in sales. We've seen 4 to 5 times as a rescan rate. The question is, what do we need to measure and how do we need to measure that effectively? So hopefully, with my fantastic guests, we're going to be able to take a look at that. So Randi, let's go over to yourself. Let's start with Digimarc's approach to demonstrating business value. Can you walk us through a specific case study? And of course, I have a slide here that you can walk us through. Can you take us through this a little bit? Where have you helped brands quantify their ROI from connected product implementation?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. And thanks for having me today. I'm really excited to join the conversation. I've spent about 15 years in the packaging space, so it's really exciting to see the role that packaging now plays in digital transformation. It's certainly a really hot topic. So before we dive into the case study itself, I'd just like to start and quickly share. So at Digimarc, we're a leader in product digitization solutions. So we're helping enable brands and retailers transform their physical products into dynamic digital assets. And we're doing that through data carriers like enterprise grade QR codes and also digital watermarking. And both of those unlock a wide range of business value across engagement, operations, and security. I've actually got two case studies to share with you today. They're very different, but both equally powerful. And they're just examples of how this plays out in the real world. So first, let's start with Unilever. So they are a global CPG powerhouse. And I think we're all familiar with their brands like Dove, Hellmann's, Persil. We've been working with them for several years, and we're currently helping them expand their use of Digimarc technology across their entire portfolio. So 45,000 SKUs. They're doing this in preparation for Sunrise 2027 and emerging regulations like the EU Digital Product Passport. But beyond compliance, their goal is transformation. So they've launched one of the largest rollouts of GS1 digital link 2D barcodes in the CPG industry. And that's adding variety in a lot of ways. So they're creating a personalized communication channel with their consumers. They are improving accessibility for visually impaired shoppers, and they're doing that through an accessible QR code. And then they're capturing first-party data that they're using to inform different marketing, innovation, and digital experiences. So this is kind of a classic brand-led use case where connected packaging is creating deeper, more meaningful relationships with consumers, while also delivering those valuable insights that they can use to help guide their business. We're in the midst of this rollout now, so we're excited to see the benefits that they achieve in the near future. Don't have any specific ROI to share there, but with my second case study, we can share a little bit of the numbers that I think that you might be wanting to hear. So whenever we contrast what we're doing with Unilever with Schnucks, which Jenny, if you want to pop to the next slide, thank you. They are a tech-savvy regional grocery chain in the US, and they have a heavy focus on operational ROI. So they've integrated technologies like shelf scanning robots, AI smart carts, digital shelf tags in all of their stores to boost efficiency, improve the customer experience. And whenever they came to us, their challenge was specific. So they wanted to reduce shrink and fraud in their self-service areas like hot wing buckets and their fresh Piccadilly salad bars. A couple of their main pain points were barcode swapping and then manual entry of their price lookup codes or their PLU codes. So we were able to implement Digimarc's imperceptible watermark technology into their packaging as the data carrier for the connected pack. And they were able to deliver a seamless automated product recognition at checkout. And that led to reduced fraud on their fresh items that contain those digital watermarks. They saw a 40% reduction in shrink in their salad bar items, which far exceeded their ROI benchmarks that they had set. They saw faster and frictionless checkout by eliminating the need for that manual PLU entry. And then it also led to a reduced need for employee interventions at checkout, which is a really great soft win in retail, just a smoother consumer and associate experience overall. So I think this example is how connected packaging can drive those hard operational benefits, even outside of the marketing outcomes that we often see connected packaging driving today. And then one more thing I'd like to mention kind of while we're talking about watermarks. So brands can also use watermarks to help reduce fraudulent activity. So we have a product authentication solution that pairs a QR code with our imperceptible watermark. And that allows a consumer to verify a product's authenticity just by scanning the package with their smartphone. So there's no need to download an app. It's super simple to use. And it's a great way to add a layer of security to product packaging. Really popular in pharma, nutraceuticals, luxury goods, really any area where you see a lot of counterfeiting. And whenever we're in a market where counterfeiting costs brands over $500 billion a year, it's a really great tool that can help kind of protect revenue and build consumer trust. So if you're like Unilever and you're wanting to focus on more traditional engagement with Connected Pack, maybe to engage and inform your consumers, or you're a retailer like Schnucks with specific operational ROI, looking for operational ROI like reduced shrink and fraud, Connected Packaging delivers really meaningful results. So and whenever you use enterprise technology, you can layer on additional functionality. So I would say oftentimes we see brands start with a QR code for consumer engagement or for compliance. But then from there, they can add an automated rewards program or add a layer of digital security with watermarks. There's really so much value to be had through connected packaging. And I have one last thought, Jenny, too. I don't know if we maybe have time for that, if I could share, but in my opinion, I think that we are standing at a huge opportunity. And I think moments like this don't come around very much. So we're seeing digital transformation across operations, supply chain, packaging. We have the rise of AI and unlocking new tools there. There's regulatory shifts that are pushing companies towards connected packaging and products. And then at the same time, consumer expectations are really driving demand for transparency and personalization. And all of this is happening at once. And in a soft economy where many brands are pulling back, but forward-thinking brands like we've seen with Unilever here, they're choosing to invest. And they're moving early, and that gives them a real opportunity to leap ahead of the competition. I think we're at the start of a major shift in the packaging and CPG industries. It's just a really exciting time, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all unfolds.
No, that's fantastic, and thank you for taking us through them. I've got a couple of questions around both, really. So first of all, you talk about the GS1 digital link rollout. This is where Unilever are really trying to, I suppose, get ahead of the game. Can you tell me a little bit about how the campaign started? Were you reaching out, explaining about, I mean, maybe we should also, if anyone isn't aware of the Sunrise project, this is about the move from 1D to 2D. So we're taking barcodes to QR codes. So maybe to tell us a little bit, how did this conversation start?
Yeah, so they have been a customer of ours for a few years, and we've been working with them on connected packaging products during that time. The upcoming regulations are what's really pushing them to go ahead and move to those GS1 digital link enabled codes and roll them out across all of their SKUs. So it's really those regulations coming and the data that you get from having those smart QR codes. There's so much more information that can be put into those codes. So there's a lot of value for brands. There's a lot of value for consumers. So really just trying to move forward there.
Yeah, no, really, really interesting. Because obviously that's something which is a global change. That's not just something in the US. This is actually a global change, the GS1 Sunrise. So then I moved to the second, this retailer example, and I just wondered what was the most surprising metrics really from this implementation?
Yeah, so I would say, honestly, the most surprising was the 40% reduction in shrink. I mean, we knew that the solution was going to have an impact, but that level of improvement, especially in a high risk category like fresh, was even better than expected. And I think another surprising insight was just how much the solution eased pressure on store associates. we got feedback that their employees felt more confident and less stressed at self checkout because they didn't have to intervene with customers that they were suspecting of fraud. So a softer metric, but something that I think that really matters in retail.
Yeah, definitely. How did you help the client present this to their board, their C-suite, their managers? How did you support them with that?
Yeah, so we didn't work directly with their C-suite team, but we did help equip the team with the kind of results that would resonate at that level. And they were able to calculate data around shrink reduction, annualized savings, and operational efficiency to really review the ROI and see if they were getting the benefits they were looking for. And they have been incredibly pleased.
And is this still rolled out? Is this still a solution which is in store?
It is, yes, it is. And we're actually looking to expand to other fresh items within their stores. This is a great solution for any sort of weighted goods.
Mhm.
So we're looking at a variety of different areas where they can also drive the same sort of benefit.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, this gives us two different insights. I think we have retailer and fresh food really, and CPG. I'm going to jump now to Güneri, and he's going to talk us through his case study, and then Randy, don't go away. We'll come back and have a bit of a discussion around really what this means for brands and everybody who's listening. Gunnery, I think we want to really look at your case study, Moose Knuckles. I know you've worked extensively with luxury brands with connected packaging solutions, so this is another industry vertical that we can look into here. Can you give us a bit of background, give us some insights into this implementation, please?
Yes, of course. And first of all, thanks again for having me, Jenny. It's always a pleasure to share what we're all passionate about. Just to add something, and there's not much to add to Randy's introduction. She pretty much covered all the essentials. Thanks for that, Randy. I think one of the biggest challenges is really trust in this field, because most of the brands, and you see this on your recent survey, Jenny, and in the industry, they still don't know where to go, who to talk to, and all that stuff. So trust and experience is really key for to support the brands, and that's independently of the industry, whether we talk about CPG, FMCGs, or luxury, beauty, and fashion and sports. So, and the Moose Knuckles case is a great example on what is making us stand out a little as one of those major players in the industry is with more than 30 years experience and more than 6,000 people in 30 countries. This is one of the results of this extensive work. So Moose Knuckles and r-pac has been working for, I think, roughly 6 years on authentication. For those who don't know Moose Knuckles, it's a premium outdoor fashion brand. It's similar to maybe the more known in Europe, Canada Goose and others, Moncler. Very premium, very quality-driven products, strong company and culture DNA in regards to sustainability, very mission-driven. And obviously, counterfeiting or brand integrity in general is one of the major topics when we talk about connected products and connected packaging, right? Consumers that spend a recent amount of money, whether it's premium food like chocolate or fresh food, medication, but also beauty products and fashion, they just want to make sure they have the right item. But nobody really wants to ask consumers to, hey, scan to verify. So the question is always how you approach and how you get consumers to engage. And the core driver for this was really customer loyalty. So Moose Knuckles is running, as we will see in the next slides, in authentication in the background of the system the moment consumers buy the product, which confirms it, or worst case, asks you kindly to come to the next store to check your product. Because again, you don't want to lose consumers by hesitation and a strong negative messaging. So consumers can easily identify, verify, and validate the product, and then immediately add it to their customer loyalty program. Because when we talk about these brands, many times they offer lifetime warranty. So instead of looking for receipt 6 years ago, where did you buy it, who, from whom, what time, etc., to claim that warranty service, it's in your account. It's the digital twin is already there, and customers can conveniently just click on it and say, "This is the product. All the information you need is here. Let me know where to ship it, where to get it, and help me to get it fixed." Which again is also more sustainable because it's not only the consumer who stays with you for the next years, but also the product is certainly being used again as it's intended to. So if you could go to the next slide, please.
Yeah.
So what we did based on that very success story, and the beauty and problem on brand integrity and authentication, and I think everyone in this field knows about this, you can't share much KPIs, right? So you can't tell this, we did this exactly and this is the result. That's the whole purpose about the protection solutions in the background, but we can tell you that it's been a significant impact. And one thing maybe to mention right at the beginning, and this is independently to whether you go to retail or CPGs as Randi and Digimarc is doing in their cases, or ours in the fashion and sports, I would say there's not one case where a connected packaging / connected product is not saving revenue, making you faster, agile, more efficient, and helps you to generate data. And if it does, then you have poor support and consulting from whoever you chose to work with. So I think that's something that we need to clearly say and put out there. So based on this very successful experience we had with Moose Knuckles approached us, just like the case that Randi highlighted on compliance. Whether you like it or not, in Europe, we love regulation, as we all know, whether it's good or bad, but DPP is here to stay. And it's starting with fashion and apparel footwear at the beginning. And then I think by 2030, it's going to be basically mandatory for all products in all industries. So now the conversations are shifting from this is a great solution, these are the benefits, just like we discussed before. Now it's you will have to do this. And why wouldn't you use the most out of it? Because the investment in time and resources and cost is exactly the same. It's a one-time approach to find the right solution, whether it's QR codes, whether it's printing, trims, packaging, tags, whether it's NFC, RFID, or combinations. The effort is the same to achieve it. But the difference is with the right partners in the right ecosystem and interoperability, you can use system solutions and partners you might have in place, but gain valuable insights into all of the other things like supply chain efficiency, consumer engagement, brand integrity, traceability, and compliance. And this is what we exactly did. So Moose Knuckles approached us and asked kindly to check what would be the options for DPP implementation. And what we have done in the first phase is we did implement all the necessary information. We work very closely with our partners from Retrace, a startup in Germany, terrific, great company culture and superb solution to cover and gather the raw materials. When we talk about materials, we really talk about the cotton that goes into your shoelaces, that goes into the product. The validation, the certification, whether this is Mexico, Vietnam, Bangladesh, all these countries and regions, and then pull these data by interoperability and APIs into our traceability system to enable a full DPP experience. In the first step, we did this like many others you would see. It's a slide with minimal product information, and then you basically see a very clean overview about all the required data, which is still to a certain extent uncertain, as we all know, and it's going to take some time till we really know what exactly will be required, the level of granularity, and what kind of data. But for Moose, we approached this. In the next step, we realized that we need more than just a classic, let's say, Excel feeling where you have a white list with all the information, the provenance, and all the stations in between. So what you will see is actually a very new release where we work with creative partners from SharpEnd that created the experience to another level. So this is more than just an Excel sheet. Jenny, if you could start the video.
Yeah.
I'll just talk to you. So what we basically did is visualized it from a creative, just like Appetite Creative, Jenny and her team would do, is add it to the next level, make it more appealing, make it more visual, make it more nice, make it entertaining and educational. People are not necessarily looking for another Excel sheet. And then the second case is basically building on this into a very, very interesting strong market. So if you could go to the next slide, please.
Yeah, sure.
So r-pac has acquired a German company called Decographics, one of the leaders in heat transfers and sports industry. And if you go to the next slide, Jenny, is what we basically did is we took to the next level. So, sports is all about passion and engagement. Today, you'll spend probably around £100 to 150, depending on preferred league and team, for a soccer jersey with the name on it and all these badges and crests and all that stuff. So what if we could help those sports clubs, and there's a tremendous interest in that field, to use NFC protected and encrypted solutions for supply chain efficiency and engagement. So we took it to the next level. Is we use different pieces and elements of this jersey, as you can see here, So the club logo is basically where it happens, right? It's on your heart. It's on the left side of the jersey's chest. You can scan it and connect. You can have your season ticket in it. You can have your wallet in it. You have the authentication piece at the bottom, jockey tags at there, where you can authenticate or engage with customers with the brand, whether it's an Adidas, Puma, Under Armour, Nike, or any other brand. So there's different channels and different opportunities. Another very exciting thing you will see in the next one is the sponsor logo on your arm. So now you can actually create engagement that is very specific and personalized. So somebody in the stadium, when they ask the people at halftime, hey, scan your sponsor logo, and you get in a different experience than the person at the very same moment sitting at home, right? So you can actually really drive more engagement through the sponsor channel as well. As you could see with the Mastercard, let's say if you spend money in the next 50 minutes in the stadium, thanks to geofencing and your smart mobile phone, we can get actually different experiences and data versus the person sitting somewhere in Los Angeles and watching the game live at 3 a.m., for example. They get a whole different experience. Same solution. The beauty of it is it's just software at the end of the day. So consumers, brands, sponsors, everyone involved can get so much more out of it through this personalization. And then last but not least, classic, you have a serialized QR code that is encrypted. So there's a certain level of protection inclusive. And then you can have the DPP experience, which will be mandatory for those big sports brands as well as for the clubs, whether you're working with one of the major sports brands or managing your apparel in this field by yourself. So adding it again for different approaches, whether you want to go with NFC and RFID tags or QR codes, you can basically get so much more out of it with the same approach of starting at the right point, understanding what technology, what solutions, where to add it is an essential. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants to have delays and lags and additional costs. But that's the beauty about finding and identifying the right partners that support you in the right way. And then again, I would say there's not one case in the world, whether it's food, apparel, pharmaceuticals, liquor, luxury, premium, whatever, where it's not helping you to be more efficient, save cost, and be more engaging. And of course, as Randy also highlighted, with connected products in general, for the very first time, you get first-party data. You don't need to go to Google, Apple, and Meta and buy it extensive amounts, and you probably get a fraction of the data. This is yours. It's for you, and you have the data science and the full control, and that gives you a whole new level of engagement opportunities with customers today, tomorrow, and in the future. So those are the two cases from our side.
Thank you so much, and apologies we didn't have the video, but what
No
would you
worries.
say in terms of that return of investment? What's that value that the both of those case studies that are similar but different in their own way? What would you say in terms of the main value? Was it
Yeah.
they were able to authenticate? Let us know.
Yeah, so one of the key things I've heard at one of the last summits I was able to speak and in part of the panel was from a marketing agency. They said we usually ask for $1 million to make 5 out of it when everything works out. But our approach is actually, I don't talk budget. I don't ask for pricing. We usually have to do the right job, the right conversations to understand what are the problems that we're solving. And then it's a different conversation because now we're suddenly saving you a 10, 20, 50, $100 million problem, let's say on counterfeiting or parallel imports, gray market, right, where a product is being sold in a country or region where it's not supposed to, or supply chain inefficiencies. We're still having issues even past COVID with supply chain. So the approach is different. Let's understand the problems you have, then we can quantify them, and I can 99.9% of the cases, I would say we will be able to save a significant amount. And out of that, the funding won't be a big discussion because now the conversation is shifting. And we just recently had this on the KPIs. We talked with the legal team because they're facing severe brand protection issues, especially on parallel imports. They asked us if it would be okay to pull in the supply chain because legal didn't have the budget. We did, so we had a great conversation with them on efficiency, product traceability, digital twins, etc. They asked us to pull in compliance and sustainability because of DPP. And last but not least, they asked us to pull in marketing. So long story short, 5 teams, 5 meetings. At the end of the day, all 5 teams went to the C-level and were able to exactly quantify the tremendous impact we would have with this solution to all of these teams. And the funding wasn't even a long discussion. It was very quickly adopted, and we're now in implementation phase with a European fashion brand on this.
Yeah, fantastic. I really like what you say there. It's kind of turning it around. It's not asking for money, but it's actually showing you the money
Exactly.
you're going to save instead.
And that's the case for everything we do. I'm sure it's the same for Digimarc, or looking at some of the attendees for this webinar. It's always the same. It's also, as an industry, I think we all agree we need to do a better job in consulting, education, and in sharing information and collaboration. But if you turn around the conversation because you invest into the brand, it's just so much more trustful.
Yeah, definitely. And we've talked about different legislation and regulations here. We've touched Randi as well. We talked about it very briefly. The sunrise. We've talked a little bit about the DPP. This is a question to both of you. How much do you feel that's pushing the adoption, or do you think it's something else that's pushing adoption at the moment?
I think from our side, and hope it's okay, Randy, if I just add this. So it's a tremendous push, but it's not just DPP. We have r-pac in France, where we already work with Lacoste on more than 70 million items for the regulation, which is let's say, slightly lighter requirement version of what DPP is supposed to be expecting from us. You have the UFLPA, which is a very big topic, especially in the US market, the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. So there are couple of very high level, very strict regulations and compliance needs, apart from the business needs, that actually are the biggest drivers, and that help us to have a different conversation, because now we're not selling something, we're actually collaborating to solve problems. So that's what we might take from our side.
I would say that there's been interest in connected packaging with brands for a number of years. I mean, consumers and what they're looking for, connected packaging can answer a lot of those. But I would agree that the regulations are really what's driving it forward and making it, a now conversation versus a nice to have. So yeah, I would agree that the regulations are kind of driving things forward at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I would certainly see how that, especially when you're talking about problems with fraud, and when then you start thinking about the changes that are happening, how those things come together. And I think, Güneri, you mentioned it before as well. If this is something that you've got to comply with, then you might as well think about other opportunities as well, whether that be brand protection, whether that be marketing opportunity, loyalty programs, etc. It just makes sense. I got a question actually from the audience. I think this one is to you, Randi. To what degree is fraud an issue at the self checkout? Do you know at where they were starting? Do their savings outweigh the slippage?
Yeah, so I can't share any specific numbers, but the ROI of the tool has far exceeded their expectations. They're extremely happy. They've seen so much value that they're looking at other items within their stores to continue rolling out this solution. So I can't share specific figures, but I would say that it's definitely been a worthwhile investment.
Great. And what about the time? And Güneri, I'll come to you and ask the same question. The time to implement this type of initiative, how long does it take?
It really varies, to be honest, because it depends on, are we talking, FMCGs, where you might already have inline marking solutions in place in your production, where you already apply data metrics code, which you could technically shift to serialized QR codes, and then it's something very seamless, quickly you can adapt. And when we talk about fashion, same there. A lot of times fashion brands already use RFID tags for inventory management and self-scanning and theft protection in fashion. Now we're talking about adding just a different component, which is usually the NFC one, that is helping with the encryption and the consumer engagement. So it can vary really for pilots. And we always recommend to start with something where you have low risk, low volume, just to see how it's working, what are the bottlenecks, where to start, what to look for when you want to scale. So that could be anything from, let's say, 4 weeks to multiple weeks and months, depending on the complexity. Obviously, when we talk about large volume products and 10 production sites all over the world, there might be quite some investigation needed to set it up properly. And in that case, it really makes sense, whether it's food or fashion, to invest the time to identify every essential details, and then it's a pretty quick way to actually start with a pilot.
Okay, so there might be some infrastructure in place which of course,
Many times, and that's the problem, and I'm sure it's the same for the Digimarc team, right? You talk to the people in a certain team that are really keen, and they don't necessarily talk to their own people in those companies, right? It's the same whether it's fashion or food. Working with Danone, L'Oreal, and all these big companies, same as fashion. I just recently talked to a sports brand, one of the global top three, and they said they never heard about DPP, but I'm very sure that somebody in the compliance and legal team is working on
Mhm.
it for weeks and months. But those silos are probably one of the biggest challenges for all of us within the solution industry, connecting them and actually making something very obvious, even more obvious to say, you know what, maybe you should start internally and we're more than happy to support you. But somebody in some of those teams is certainly well into these topics. It's just a disconnect of the bigger companies on this, and once you have that, it's a pretty straight path forward.
Yeah, definitely. Randy, you were going to talk a little bit about the time to market as well.
Yes, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said, but I just want to kind of highlight, I agree. I think pilots are a really great approach for brands to kind of test out this value. Obviously, us that are close to connected packaging, we see the value and how important and how what benefits it can bring to brands. But I think oftentimes whenever people are starting their journey, they don't understand, what value it can really bring. So those pilot projects are a great way to kind of introduce it. You can introduce on a seasonal item, and maybe do a specialized promotion. There's a variety of ways that you can go about it, but I would agree. I think that's a really great recommendation as the pilot.
Yeah, and again, that challenge of silos. Maybe there's a small pilot that then can be rolled out and increase um, the functionality and the scope to be able to then maybe look at some of the other areas as well. There's
Yeah.
Go
Oh,
on.
sorry, Jenny. And with the silos, I would say each kind of part of the business, they have their own goals that they're working on, but connected packaging can help in all of those. We can help on the marketing side, we can help on the supply chain side. So, really bringing everyone together and looking at the solution holistically, I think could bring a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, definitely agree with that. Güneri, I've got a question from the audience actually. Can this replace RFID cards? Um,
Not sure in what direction this question is
no.
going, but simple answer, yes. So what we usually do, we within the r-pac world, we call them the twin tags, which is basically a combination of RFID tags and NFC tags in combination. Very small chip, very thin, sustainable, that you can approach. That helps you with the sustainability part, where RFID is the best solution in the market technically, and then the NFC takes over for, again, the authentication, because it can be on banking level encryption, and then the consumer engagement, right? So consumers can actually connect with it, which is not possible currently with RFID. There are rumors about, adoption to smartphones in the future and all that stuff. But speaking of today and most likely tomorrow, the NFC is the essential one, where you need to create customer awareness and call to action. And that leads me to you, Jenny, for consumers to actually know, because we can talk about all of these things. If you don't do it right, if you don't tell people that there is something in how to engage and why to engage, nothing is going to happen on the data side, right? You can improve your supply chain, you can tackle counterfeits, but consumers will not scan. We've seen this a million times. And I think this is one of the biggest challenges as an industry. All of our solution providers are technical. We are not creative agencies. We have dashboards and can create automatism in engagement. So every time you scan something different, but that has nothing to do with the capabilities, not just because of you and your webinar here, but that's where you will pull in a great, smart, creative team that actually takes over to do the engagement, because we're the times of directing people to desktop websites or not mobile fit websites with no added value are much past,
Mm.
maybe never existed. But I think the most essential part is really to identify all of the things and then pull in marketing and creative agencies like yours and all the other great ones out there, that actually take over with the visual appealing, educational engagement stuff, the call to action, the education on how, but also the campaign management, because data is great, data is the new oil, but if you don't have the data science behind it, it's pretty much worthless.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't completely agree with everything that you said there. I mean, I'm really passionate about saying don't have a experience that links to a website. I mean, that's my 101, please don't do. It's almost a slap in the face to the consumer who bothers to actually make an action, and all you do is give them the website. And you talk about, you know, the success, and I think the success really comes down to those two key elements. It's about the value exchange that you're giving. You know, why does my consumer care about what I want to tell them? And that multi-channel promotion as well. So tell them that it's there. And I think that you're touching on that as well.
And it's also the messaging, right? All these brands put in so much effort in, you know, sustainable programs and all that stuff. And since having Randy from Digimarc here and Dom, who I personally really admire, one of the smartest people I know, he used this case from Patagonia, right? So moving just from 7 hang tags to 1 was kind of like what, 77 tons of paper reduction annually every year, and 353 work days. That means it's almost 2 full employees that you saved just by simply moving from 7 hang tags, 1 for care instructions, 1 for materials, 1 whatever, to 1 with a serialized QR code, where you have all the experience. And then you can actually see, is this something of interest for my consumers, right? Do they spend time and you know, resources on care instructions, on videos, all the social media activities? So this is a very simple and yet very powerful example in the industry from Patagonia, again, a very mission-driven brand, where it shows it's also sustainable. And then we talk about KPIs. It's saving you money, it's saving you resources that you can add to something else.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's so many different metrics, and you know, when we compare connected packaging to any other media channel, and I always say connected packaging is turning your product, your packaging, your product into a media channel. I always say it's that also amazingly targeted channel. You have that person with your product, your consumer, and your product together at the same time. That's when you can start to understand, you know, what is it that's incentivizing? What are they interested in? So everybody scans the sustainability and nobody scans the care instructions, whatever it might be. There you have a clear example of what drives my consumer. What is my consumer interested in? But there's so many different metrics out there. So if we wanted to say maybe 3 important metrics that we should be focusing on, is there any 3, and Randy, I'll come to you as well, is there any 3 that stick in your mind that these are the definite things that you should be tracking?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, you know, it's again saving money, and that's brand integrity. So if you're in a field where your product has a certain value and in risk of being, you know, copied, faked, or misused and misplaced in different markets where they're not supposed to be for whatever reason, that's a big issue. During my time at Amazon, that was actually probably 80% of the times the bigger problem than fake products was parallel imports and gray market. So brand integrity is key, and it's not only about, you know, the premium products. Could be nutrition, infant formula. We've heard in the news where babies died in China. So it throughout all industries. I think supply chain efficiency in product traceability is another thing where you can be so much more efficient and again save significant amounts of money. And then again, it's consumer engagement. It's at the GFA summit in Copenhagen, one of the biggest topics was reselling, right? So if you have quality products and somebody has been wearing your winter coat, your winter parka for 5 years, and they're just done because they want something new, well, give them a coupon, let them send in the current product, refurb it, resell it on your platform, and the consumer gets like, I don't know, 25% coupon to get a new one. So suddenly your lifetime value of the customer expands from 5 years to maybe 10 years. Right? So over the span of 10 years, you're now following Jenny as your consumer. She likes dogs, whatsoever. Now you get all these insights that you can connect to social media and activities. That's $1 million. Just that, you know, that part. So I would say if you put all 3 of them, it's unbeatable as a solution.
Yeah, very strong. Randy, what about yourself? Has Güneri left you anything to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think how you measure or what KPIs you measure really depends on your use case and what you're trying to solve. I think one way to think about it, you can think of, you know, 3 different buckets. You have operational impact. What efficiencies are you gaining? Are you reducing errors? Are you speeding up processes? Are you cutting costs? Consumer engagement. Are people scanning? Are they interacting? Are they coming back? What data are you getting from it? And then the brand or business outcomes. So are you seeing increased loyalty? Are you seeing better margins or insights that you can use to perform product development or your overall strategy? But it really depends what you're trying to solve, what you want to measure. But yeah, there is value to be had at every level of the organization. So there's so much potential. I'm really excited that brands are starting to really move full force down this road.
Definitely. And again, you kind of put it really nicely in the terms of buckets, because the opportunities and the use cases are so wide that obviously those tracking metrics are also then dependent upon which bucket they fall in. We pulled together a couple of different case study highlights from the campaigns that we run. And these are some of the things that we track. And again, it's always dependent upon who the who the client is, and what we're trying to help to do. And of course, product sales uplift, of course, that's a direct one, but also engagement time. The engagement time is a big one, especially when you start to compare it against, if you want to compare that against your TV, or if you want to compare that to your outdoor, you're not getting 3 minutes TV engagement, that's for sure. And here we are. Again, repeat visits. I really liked what you said, Güneri, around the kind of lifetime as well. So, there's a first time engagement, and perhaps you're scanning for authentication, perhaps you're signing up for a guarantee, and then later on, actually, I'm coming back to find out how to resell or get some value and get my product upcycled, or whatever it might be, on a perhaps on a Vinted type platform, just resell. Data capture, we talked a lot around being able to understand who your consumers are, and of course brand recall as well. If you can deliver some sort of experience that the consumer enjoys, is involved in, has some emotional response to, again, you're building that brand loyalty. So I think there's so many different things there, and I hope that's given a lot of different examples to the audience as well. I want to go back to the beginning. So if we wanted to explain to a client who's still thinking about it, and there's still so many different brands, even though our recent survey said 88% of brands are thinking or planning a connected packaging campaign. That means there's a lot of brands who are still at those kind of early stages. What advice would you give to a brand who was launching their first campaign? And I'll come to both of you. Randi, I'll start with you. What advice would you give?
Yeah, I would say start small, test the waters. You can have a crawl, walk, run approach in terms of how you go about commercializing this within the market. I would definitely say review what pain points you have. What is your primary problem that you're trying to solve? And then find the right partner. There's a lot of really good organizations that are partnering and helping brands kind of define what this digital strategy looks like. So make sure that you're working with experts that understand the field and can help guide you along your journey.
Great points there. Güneri, over to you. What are your advice?
Yeah, not much meaningful to add after Randy. So, but yeah, I think whether it's compliance like DPP, RJ, QFLP, and whatsoever that's coming, that's the must do, or GS1 Project Sunrise, the GS1 Digital Link. So there's so much coming where you will have to apply some sort of technology. It's really connect the dots, talk to the right people, as Randy said, because I'm very certain that any trustful, and there are a lot of great companies out there, solution provider will help you to identify gaps, problems, challenges where you can be more efficient, faster, agile, and more secure. And then build on that one. Again, you will have to do something like DPP very closely. And when we talk about fashion, footwear, and many other industries, it's not like they're producing on demand. In fashion, most of the time, the brands we talk to already start producing 2026 fashion. So it's not like there's much time, even though 2027 or further sounds so far away. So it's about time. And some brands already started heavily, and some are still at a very early stage. But you don't want to get caught off guard with products in stock, no matter which industry, that are not compliant, because that's going to cost you tremendously more than the investment you would have to do right now. And then again, something I preach is collaboration. I'm sure there will be solution providers that will claim you to do it all at the best. And we certainly are one of the largest solution providers out there, but I would never say we are the one-stop shop. I think this is about collaboration. If you have great companies like materials traceability, again, like Retrace, for example, or creative agencies like yours, or parts, let's say you have Digimarc, it's about the combination of solutions. It's combine and look for the best custom solution that you need, and make the people work together. If you have the right partners, there will be collaboration. There will be APIs and interoperability that will enable you to have minimum risk. The truth is, most brands don't want to stick to just one and be dependent. So if you have the right partners, collaboration will be key and collaboration will be successful. And that's the path forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's such an important part, collaboration, because no one can be the master of all, and therefore you can get experts.
Some claim, but the truth is that's not happening. And again, I mean, why would I go in and tell a brand that has been working with you or other lead companies? We're talking like the BBDOs, WWP, and all these lead strategy marketing agencies. Why would I go in and tell them that I do a better job? It's just ridiculous, right? So again, interoperability, get everybody on the same table, add the missing pieces, and just create a great experience based on collaboration.
Yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree more with that. Randy, is there any particular industry vertical that you see more ahead of others? And any reasons that you might see for that?
Interesting. I would say those that are using authentication. I think that those organizations are a little bit further ahead. Obviously, they have a big problem that they're trying to solve and protect revenue. So I think that's maybe why they've moved a little bit sooner than some of the other brands. So any organization, I mean, that could be apparel, that could be pharma, really any company that's using from a brand protection standpoint, I think are a little bit ahead of others.
Güneri, do you have any comments to add?
Yeah, I mean, Reddy pointed something very obvious, right? It's if you did the heavy lifting, which is authentication in many cases, you're ready. Like it's just adding the Moose Knuckles case or Ralph Lauren as Digimarc does it. Those are the cases where you actually did the very, very heavy lifting, and then it's just adding the missing part, so to say, the cherry on top of the cake or the whipped cream, and get much more out of it. I think from my experience of the past 25 years, I think food, CPG is in general very advanced because it's food. Traceability, whether it's based on data metrics and inline marking coding, has been there for decades. But what I see now is because of regulation like r-pac, DPP, and others, fashion has to pick up very quickly. They're the first in line, I think, apart from car batteries for electric vehicles. And what we see is there's bigger interest to more sophisticated, because again, if you have production shared about Vietnam, Bangladesh, Southeast Asia, in general, China, it's an infrastructure topic. You need to have people at site. It's culture, availability, time zone, language, all these barriers. It's an incredible efficient process. You can't just go there and ask them to spend 3 more seconds per item to do something that you think is necessary. So I think fashion is picking up very quickly, very heavily. They struggle a little more because they're not used to be honest. Food has always been very strict because it's food, ingredients, and all that stuff. But fashion is picking up very quickly based on the examples that Randy just mentioned, whether it's authentication, pure compliance, or again being more efficient in retail. Like you don't want to go in a store, look for an item that you like, and find a salesperson who's not findable because you just want a different size, different color. Why wouldn't you have a tag on it? You scan it with your retail app and it says, yeah, we got this size in whatever your preferred color. You can have it shipped to your house, or you can just click get it and somebody brings it to you. Like all these technologies do all of this, right? The Apple Store experience, you go in, you pick something, you scan with the Apple Store app, you leave. How great is that? And that's been there for like 10 years. You can do this in any environment, whether where you're fashion retail or fast fashion or premium. You can enable people to have a great experience with all these technologies. So I think fashion in general, footwear, sports, and all that stuff will pick this up very quickly.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, that kind of brings me to another question, which is where do you see connected packaging, connected products in the next 3 years? Is that something you see that a lot of retailers are going to start trying to roll out, or do you see people who are going to be more focused on the DPP, or what do you think is
I think retail will be a strong voice in this because RFID is already there in retail in many ways, right? Again, we're talking about inventory management. I don't know if you ever had the pleasure to walk into a store here in Germany. Most of the time it's Saturdays, and then they will hire like a bunch of students for a minimum wage, and then they will walk around, turn around every can of tuna and apparel and scan and check and do the inventory checks. You can do this all automized now. You have sensors in place that can use RFID and immediately identify you have 12 pairs of of size large and 16 pairs of size extra large in green, blue, whatever. Then again, theft protection, right? If somebody steals something, you don't need to have those big clunky plastic things that we were used to in our younger ages. So again, identifying problems that you're dealing with and then solving them enables you to do the rest very easily. If you have all that in place, you can use it for supply chain, you can use it for authentication for consumers, and then also consumer engagement. So I think retail is a strong voice. We see a strong shift. Retail is growing in many industries. People want to have that human experience, walk in a store, and all that stuff. So I think, again, if you are tackling the right problems, it's just added value on other spots of the journey, so to say.
Randy, where do you see things going next 3 years?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think with the regulations that we're seeing coming, like DPP, the global sort of standard initiatives like Sunrise 2027, I think retailers are really going to be pushing for that. And then we're also seeing the same thing from consumers. They want convenience. So some of the examples that you gave, Güneri, I mean, that's a great store experience for those consumers. It makes it easy for them. And convenience has been at the top of the trend list for quite some time, but we've got others like personalization, transparency. So everything is coming to a head. And I think we're going to see wide adoption over the next 3 years.
Yeah, definitely. In so many different areas. We've talked about food and drink. There's still a lot there. There's textiles, there's the DPP, there's the Sunrise. So I think we're going to start to see a huge amount of change coming across both areas, B2C and B2B. We haven't talked about B2B, but there's a lot of opportunity for supply chain in the B2B market as well. I mean, as I say, we've only talked about B2C. I don't know, Güneri or Randy, whether you want to talk a little bit about B2B before we close.
Yeah, I mean, again, when we talk about the factories, right, and many times the same factory will produce for Zara, H&M, and maybe Gucci and Prada or Adidas, right? So the heavy lifting is actually with the vendor, with the factory in that region, right? If you can convince them about the added value, they will just replicate the same process for all of the brands because it's the same factory at the end. It's the same people in charge. So B2B is also about efficiency, right? You can create a digital twin, follow it from the raw materials, again, from this cotton, the certified papers, all the way to production, distribution centers, retail. That's all B2B because somebody is selling the products. And today, one of the biggest challenges, simple but big problem, is factories will produce items, send it to your store, and you open up the box in the store, Jenny, and you're like, oh, there's only 20 pair of jeans, but it's supposed to be 25. Who's right? Who's wrong, right? Maybe it's just because 5 tags. And we did trials with one large retailer, and we picked just a random box, and that was actually the case. There were 23 pairs of jeans in it, supposed to be 25. The supply chain people were like, nah, can't be, blah, 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 right? And then we opened up the box, and the result was 2 items were missing an RFID price tag, which was supposed to be there. So what would have happened is you would sell this to a store would say, I'm not going to pay for 25, there are only 23 in it. If you multiply this with millions of boxes, that's a heavy impact on B2B side, right? So that's even one of the strongest assets. Like, you can reduce this by having a tabletop that we produce as well, where you just put the closed box, you don't even need to touch and open it, and it will automatically scan the tags and will tell you something is missing, or this is concrete, this is complete, and it's good to go. So that's a very simple yet very powerful example for the B2B side.
Yeah. Any closing statements there from yourself, Randy?
No, I mean, I think he covered it well. Just in general, I think connected packaging has a ton of value for brands, and I'm really excited to see how things progress over the next few years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many different things. We've got technology moving forward, we've got regulation pushing that, we've got B2B, we've got B2C. I think one of the things we're talking about, and very much this webinar is really focused on kind of the ROI and how to bring those things forward, is really about being able to get benchmarks, being able to have areas to be able to say, this is great, this is not so great. And this is a very exciting time. And Randy, you said it, I think you said, we're at this kind of opportunity, or at this kind of crossroads, or this kind of element at the moment where we have so many different things that are happening. I'm working with the Interactive Brand Packaging Network to also bring together consumer. So as Appetite Creative, we already run the annual survey from a brand's perspective, and now we also want to get a consumer perspective as well. So I think there's a huge opportunity here for us to be able to then pull together what do consumers want in different places. We already know from our survey what the brands want, what do marketing companies want, but what is it that the consumer wants? And I think there's some really fantastic learnings to be had there as well. But in general, we've kind of heard from you both some really interesting case studies, and I think a couple of things that I want to take away from it is there are so many different opportunities. Collaborate with different partners. I think that's a main message that's come out from today. Also, really look at not just what are you going to spend, but what actually are you saving? And I think that's a really, really important part. And I think that was really clear from both your case studies. And therefore, you generate more than what you need to implement it as well. So it's been fantastic having you both here today. So thank you so much for your time. If anybody wants to download the Connected Packaging report, they can do. I will send around the case study links that we've looked at as well as the recording of both of Güneri's videos. And so obviously we'll be able to answer any questions. And it's been really great having you as an audience. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.